Now, a lot has been going on in the political world, and of course, that means we bring on our good friend Joe Sonka of Insider Louisville to break it all down. Joe, how are you, my friend?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. Now, let's start with the governor, Matt Bevin. He was there in Louisville for the Pegasus Parade and the Derby, got booed kind of everywhere he went. Have you gotten the sense that his popularity has sort of hit a level that it's going to be really hard for him to return from?
Well, he was never really popular in Louisville. He didn't win that when he ran for governor, but I think it's in rural areas around the state is where his popularity seems to have taken a hit, especially around his involvement with the pension bill and some of the comments that he's made about teachers that were less than flattering, to make an understatement. But the question remains whether he's going to jump in and get involved in a re-election campaign, because he's really not saying much at all on that.
That is really odd. I mean, he's going to have to decide that probably in the next 6 to 7 months, and yet he was just asked the other day and said he didn't have a comment. Is it possible that the sitting governor chooses not to run for re-election?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. If he has his eyes on bigger and better things, if he wants to wait around and try to have a rematch against Mitch McConnell for the Senate, he could do that. If he's angling for some kind of cabinet job with the Trump administration, he could do that. As of right now, we're just left to guess because he's really not saying much.
All right, well, let's ask about that. There were some stories that said that people believe he might be looking at running against Mitch McConnell in the primary. I don't know that two more disliked state figures would have gone together ever, but is that possible?
I guess we can't rule it out. If he's not going to rule it out, we can't rule it out. But that was a really bloody and very negative primary campaign that McConnell and Bevin had in 2014. It was really heated and there was a lot of bad blood. If people thought that there was a GOP civil war in Kentucky because of the past legislative session, just wait until a Bevin-McConnell primary happens. If that does happen, that would be just a continuation of that inner strife.
Who do you think would win that? If you had to call, you, as I say all the time, you pick Trump as the president before anyone I know. Who wins that one?
Who else is running? I'm not sure. They're neither really popular, but if you're going with a primary, most Republicans, I say, would have a good opinion of Bevin. I think most Republicans would still have a good opinion about McConnell. So I think that's really kind of up for grabs if that happened.
Yeah, I do too. I have no idea what would happen in that. Now, switching gears, there's been a lot of talk there in Louisville about the takeover of the Jefferson County Public School system and then what that effect that might have on the entire state. Do you think the state is going to end up executing on its threat and taking over the system?
I would have to imagine that they would. It's up to the state Board of Education right now, and that's entirely made up of appointees of Governor Matt Bevin, and just about all of them have a past of support of charter schools, being very critical of JCPS, the busing assignment there. So I think that's pretty much a done deal that's going to happen. The only question is going to be what happens after that in terms of the school board in Jefferson County fighting that in court. I think right now you're absolutely certain that it's going to be a legal fight. And I think the board might have a good case if they try to challenge that and say that this was a preordained attempt to try to take over the board and trying to squeeze in some kind of explanation for why they were doing it.
What is the explanation? I mean, you know, they've taken over, I think, Menifee County and a couple others where performance was extremely low, but that's not been the case necessarily in Louisville. How are they justifying this?
The main justification seems to be that there are achievement gaps between different groups within Jefferson County. So you have poor black students not doing as well as more affluent white kids in certain parts of the city. So that's basically they're saying that because those achievement gaps have widened and not narrowed, that seems to be one of the reasons. And there's a whole host of reasons going back to why the audit started in terms of student safety and other things. But the thing that people seem to be latching onto, especially Bevin and people who support the takeover, is that the achievement gaps exist and they're not going away, and that's why the state has to take over. The question is whether the state taking over will have any type of effect on that. and whether it's worth, basically overthrowing a democratically elected board, which the Jefferson County Board is.
Make a prediction here in Lexington, Gray versus McGrath and Thomas. Who do you think wins?
Nail biter between McGrath and Gray. I don't think Thomas is going to be at the top, near the top, but I think it's a coin flip.
Yeah, I do too. Well, thank you very much. Joe Sonka, Insider Louisville.